The World Cup has a serious Piojo-Alvarado problem, because Roberto Piojo Alvarado arrived at this tournament carrying one uncomfortable question: why him? And this was not a small doubt. Before the World Cup, Piojo had built a fairly discreet career with the Mexican national team. 72 appearances, only 5 goals and 10 assists. Correct numbers, useful numbers, but not the numbers of an untouchable star. Not the numbers that scream, this man has to start in one of the most pressured World Cups in Mexican football history. And the criticism did not come from nowhere.
Particularmente, no hubiera convocado ni al Piojo ni a Jorge Sánchez. Yo, como mínimo.
Since arriving at Chivas, Piojo had earned many call-ups through work, consistency and sacrifice. In total, he had produced 32 goals and 30 assists for the club, but his latest season was not explosive. 31 matches, 4 goals, 5 assists, acceptable numbers, yes, but not enough to convince everyone. Not enough, in the eyes of many, to justify Javier Aguirre trusting him as an important piece of this team. And in one of the most unfair habits of Mexican football, Piojo arrived at the World Cup almost treated like his call-up was a mistake. Some people wanted Diego Lainez. Others said Alvarado was all effort, but not enough clarity. For a large part of the fan base, he was the typical player who runs, presses, and obeys, but not the player who decides World Cup matches. But do not misunderstand this. The problem was not that people had doubts. The problem is that almost nobody was seeing what Aguirre was seeing. Don't believe me? Take a look at this. In just 4 World Cup matches, Roberto Alvarado already has 3 assists, the same number as Martin Odegaard. He is level with names like Florian Wirtz and Odegaard in the assist table, and he is only behind players like Bruno Guimaraes with 4 and Michael Olise with 5. That is absurd, because this is no longer a local comparison. We are not saying Piojo is important for Mexico. We are saying he is competing with some of the best creators in world football at the biggest tournament on the planet. And this is not coincidence. With those 3 assists, Piojo became the first Mexican footballer to register 3 assists in a single World Cup. That is the number that changes everything. This is not just a good run. This is not one inspired match. This is a historic record for the Mexican national team. And the most terrifying part is that Piojo is not only assisting, he is holding the team together. He is the attacking player with the greatest defensive sacrifice. He presses, he recovers, he tracks back, he helps the full-back, he moves inside. He appears as an interior. He can play as a winger, as a number 10, as a wide midfielder, and even perform almost like a full-back when the match demands it. He is not a player from one zone. He is a tactical piece Aguirre can move, depending on what the game needs. That is why Mexico look different, because this team does not only attack, it also defends. And in that context, Piojo is essential. While others get the spotlight for goals, like Julian Quiñones, who already has 3, or Raúl Jiménez, who has 2, Alvarado is one of the players explaining how Mexico even reaches those chances. His assist to Quiñones against Ecuador is the perfect example. In a heavy match, a knockout match, a World Cup tension match, Piojo appeared again with the final pass. He does not only produce numbers, he produces moments, and this has to be said. Mexico broke a historic barrier. It had been 40 years since Mexico last won a knockout match at a World Cup. And in that context, Javier Aguirre delivered a tactical masterclass. Mora, Romo and Lira controlled the midfield, and Piojo became one of the key names of this Mexico. That matters. Because this is no longer just fans saying, sorry Piojo. Recognized journalists are starting to place him inside the structure that is changing Mexico's history. And then there is the international validation. If Zlatan is warning England about Mexico, that tells you something.
They played with high intensity in defensive and also offensive. So they showed from the first minute who is the boss of the game, and they got the 2 goals, and then in the second half they slowed down a little bit, and in the end they won.
The message is no longer, Mexico are excited because they are hosts. The message is stronger now. The world is starting to see Mexico as dangerous. A team with no goals conceded, a team with confidence, a team with Quiñones, Gilberto Mora, Raúl Jiménez, and a Piojo Alvarado who has become decisive. So yes, the world might not have wanted to see it, but Piojo Alvarado earned respect. He is not just another name at this World Cup. And the numbers prove it. 3 assists in 4 matches. A Mexican record in a single World Cup. One of the best assist providers in the tournament. Tactical impact, defensive sacrifice, media recognition, and even international interest from Flamengo. This is not coincidence. Piojo went from being the player many questioned to becoming one of the most decisive players in Mexico's historic run. And that is why the conversation has to change. Piojo Alvarado did not come out of nowhere in this World Cup. His career has been full of doubts, criticism and quiet periods, but also full of titles, consistency and important matches where he eventually responded. Roberto Piojo Alvarado was born in Salamanca, Guanajuato on September 7, 1998. His story began far away from the noise of the biggest clubs, first in local teams, then at Celaya, where he made his professional debut as almost a kid. In 2013, at just 15 years old, he played his first professional minutes in the Copa against Estudiantes Tecos. Days later, he also debuted in the Ascenso League. From the start, he carried an interesting label. He was not the most physically imposing player, but he was one of those talents who understood the game earlier than most. By 2016, he was already being criticised, but his quality was also clear. At Celaya, he was protected by experienced players like Alfredo Moreno, Angel Reyna, Nacho Torres, and John Restrepo, and that helped him grow. His best Ascenso tournament came in Apertura 2016. He started 13 of 17 matches and scored 6 goals. That opened the door to the first division. Pachuca signed him in December 2016, when he was only 18. He made his Liga MX debut on January 14, 2017, against Jaguares de Chiapas, coming on in the 86th minute. But his time at Pachuca was not explosive. 9 matches, 1 goal. Then came Necaxa, where he found more continuity, 37 matches, 2 goals, and 7 assists. He was not a star yet, but he was already building something important. A career based on adaptation, work and resistance. The big leap came with Cruz Azul. In 2018, La Máquina paid around $3 million for him, and that is where Piojo started to justify his projection. With Cruz Azul, he played 138 official matches, scored 18 goals and gave 24 assists. He was part of a winning cycle. Copa MX Apertura 2018, Super Copa MX 2019, Leagues Cup 2019, Copa por Mexico 2020, and, above everything, the Guardianes 2021 Liga MX title, the title that ended Cruz Azul's historic drought. By then, Piojo was no longer just a promise, he was functional, competitive, a winner. Then he arrived at Chivas at the end of 2021, and in Guadalajara he became one of the most important names in the squad. Since joining Chivas, he earned many national team call-ups through performance, producing 32 goals and 30 assists. But this is where the contradiction becomes important. Even with strong overall numbers at Chivas, his final season before the World Cup was heavily debated, and that is why the criticism grew. Because with Mexico, before this World Cup, Piojo's career was discreet, 72 appearances, 5 goals and 10 assists. He had been there many times. He had been part of the process, but he was not seen as a decisive figure. For many, his call-up was questionable. For others, completely unjustifiable.
El Piojo Alvarado, consentidazo de El Vasco.
But do not misunderstand this. Piojo already had history with the national team. He won the Gold Cup in 2019, playing all 6 matches and scoring in the group stage against Canada. He was also part of the Olympic cycle, champion of the 2021 pre-Olympic tournament with the under-23s, then bronze medalist at Tokyo 2021. In Qatar 2022, he lived his first World Cup, but barely played, only 17 minutes in Mexico's painful group stage elimination. He could not change the story there, and that matters. Qatar left a debt. Then came the 2023 Gold Cup, where he again played all 6 matches. This time he appeared in the knockout rounds, an assist in the quarter-final against Costa Rica, and a goal in the semi-final against Jamaica. Mexico won the title, and Piojo showed up again in an important tournament. In 2025, he won another Gold Cup. He played every match and became untouchable as the right winger, even without goals or assists. But the biggest sign of redemption before the World Cup came in the 2024-25 CONCACAF Nations League. Mexico won that tournament for the first time, and Alvarado played a key role. He alternated between starting and coming off the bench, but in the final 4, he mattered. Against Canada, he participated in the move for the opening goal, combining with Raúl Jiménez. And in the final against Panama, he assisted in the 8th minute with a cross to the back post for Raúl's goal. That was not coincidence. Piojo arrived criticised, yes, but he also arrived with a career full of titles. Gold Cups in 2019, 2023 and 2025, Nations League 2025, Olympic bronze, Liga MX champion with Cruz Azul, CONCACAF champion with Pachuca, and several domestic trophies. He did not have the flashiest numbers with Mexico, but he had the career of a player who knows how to compete. That is why this World Cup feels like total redemption. Piojo did not arrive as a star, he arrived questioned.
Digo, no a todos les puede gustar tu forma de jugar o lo que haces, pero digo, tratando, se respeta todas las opiniones y
He arrived with discrete national team numbers. He arrived after a debated season with Chivas. He arrived with the memory of Qatar 2022. He arrived with many people asking why Aguirre trusted him, and now the answer is on the pitch. The player many saw as filler is becoming one of the most decisive names in Mexico's historic run. Piojo Alvarado is not having this World Cup by accident. He is functioning as Mexico's invisible winger, not always the flashiest player, not always the one in the goal photo, but he connects everything. He occupies the right side, tracks back, helps defensively, delivers crosses, plays final passes, attacks space, and creates chances for Quiñones, Jimenez, and Fidalgo. But do not misunderstand this. This is tactical intelligence. Gil Mora gives Mexico pause, vision, vertical passing, and personality. Piojo gives them work rate, sacrifice, final ball, and acceleration out wide. When they appear together, Mexico become dangerous in a different way. Mora thinks the play. Alvarado turns it into a real threat. Against South Africa, after Gil Mora came on, Mexico found the second goal. Alvarado appeared on the right and delivered a perfect cross for Raúl Jimenez, who headed in completely free at the back post. That play explains Piojo perfectly. He does not need to produce a fantasy. He needs to arrive at the right time, choose correctly, and put the ball where it hurts. Against South Korea, in a much tighter match, his value was also clear. Mexico played with Lira as the holding midfielder and with Alvarado and Quiñones as two bullets on the wings. Aguirre used Piojo as an outside threat, but also as a player of order. The clearest chance of the first half came from the right. Alvarado cut inside and delivered a great cross for Quiñones, who headed on target and forced the goalkeeper into a save. In a closed match, where almost nothing was happening, Piojo was one of the few players who found an advantage, and the scariest part came when Gil Mora fully entered the team. Against Czechia, Mora started, and Mexico had more material to show this partnership. Mora accelerated the team from midfield, played forward passes, showed no fear of the stage, and helped Mexico connect quickly with the wings, where Quiñones and Alvarado were waiting. The best collective action came in the second goal. It started with Alvarado winning the physical action through a headed clearance. Gil Mora collected the ball, carried forward, and played a brilliant pass into Sanchez. The move ended with rebounds inside the box and a goal for Quiñones. That action shows the formula. Alvarado wins the physical duel. Mora turns that loose ball into a clean attack. Mexico punish. A barbarity. Then, when Mora left the pitch, Fidalgo came on and immediately connected well with Alvarado. The third goal again showed that Piojo is the constant connector. He received with space, combined with Santi Jimenez, won the rebound, and assisted Fidalgo to finish the match. Even without Mora on the field, the point was the same. Alvarado is always close to the action that breaks the game, but the match that elevated everything was against Ecuador. And it was not by accident. He started on the right, but appeared in different areas of the pitch. He was dangerous in attack, but also did a massive defensive job alongside Jorge Sanchez, building a wall on the right side to stop Ecuador. In one key move, Raúl Jimenez dropped deep, dragged centre-backs, and opened the ball for Quiñones. Quiñones found Alvarado and Piojo arrived to finish. Even if the shot was not clean, it did not become a goal, but it showed Mexico's attacking pattern. Then came the most important action, the assist to Quiñones. Alvarado played a huge through ball, perfectly timed, for Quiñones to attack Ecuador's high line, run from his own half, cut inside, and smash the ball into the net. That is Piojo's exact role. He is not always the most spectacular player, but he finds the most lethal player at the exact moment. And this has to be said, Alvarado already has 3 assists at the 2026 World Cup. More than any Mexican player in this team. He assisted Raúl Jimenez against South Africa, Álvaro Fidalgo against Czechia, and Julián Quiñones against Ecuador. With that, he became the first Mexican in history to record 3 assists in a single World Cup, and also the first Mexican to assist in 3 different matches in the same edition. Those are dream numbers. But this is not only about assists, he is also the Mexican player who has covered the most kilometers in the tournament. The player who arrived criticised is now untouchable for Javier Aguirre, the winger, the interior, the assister, the defensive corrector, the partner of the forwards. That is why his father's phrase hits so hard. Guillermo Alvarado said, "Se vale soñar." ECC, because Piojo's story is no longer only tactical, it is emotional. He arrived questioned, he earned respect, and now he is one of Mexico's most decisive players. So no, Piojo Alvarado will not be just another player at this World Cup. And if Mexico keep making history, the whole country may have to admit something. Without Piojo, this team does not work the same way.